Lucas James walked into his house that evening, and something felt wrong. The silence was too heavy. "Annabelle? Mirabelle? Isabel?" he called out. Nothing. His heart started pounding. He found the security guard. "Where are they?" "The garden, sir, with the new maid." Lucas walked toward the back of the estate, and what he saw stopped him cold. His 3 daughters, who hadn't moved in 3 years, who hadn't smiled since the day their mother died, were on a blanket in the grass. And they were reaching, smiling, living. For the first time in 3 years, Lucas James felt something he thought God had taken from him forever. Let me tell you how we got here, because this story will break your heart before it heals it. 3 years ago, Lucas James lost his wife. Emily died giving birth to their triplet daughters. The doctors tried everything, but her body gave out. The last thing she said to Lucas was, "Promise me you'll show them joy." "Who won?" He promised. But when Emily died, something in Lucas died too. He brought his 3 baby girls home, Annabelle, Mirabelle, and Isabel, and he tried. He hired nannies. He bought everything they needed. But every time he looked at them, all he saw was the woman he'd lost. And slowly, without even realizing it, Lucas stopped living. He stopped playing music because it reminded him of Emily. He stopped laughing because there was nothing to laugh about. He stopped hoping because hope hurt too much. And the girls, they felt it. By the time they were 6 months old, they stopped babbling. At 1 year, they weren't trying to stand. At 2 years, nothing. No words, no steps, just silence. Lucas spent over $1 million on specialists, doctors from Johns Hopkins, therapists from Boston, 23 different experts. Every test came back the same, nothing physically wrong. One doctor told him, "Mr. James, children mirror what they see, and right now, they're mirroring grief." Lucas fired her. He didn't want to believe his pain was killing his daughters, so he stopped trying to fix them. He hired staff to feed them, change them, keep them breathing. That was it. No therapy, no hope, just survival. His daughters turned 3 years old, and they still hadn't spoken, hadn't walked. They sat in their chairs like beautiful, silent dolls. And Lucas convinced himself this was fine, this was safe. He was wrong. Then Jasmine Baker came into his life. She wasn't supposed to change anything. She was just a housekeeper he hired to help with the girls. But Jasmine had a gift Lucas didn't know about. She had a degree in occupational therapy. She'd spent 5 years learning how to help broken children heal. But life took her dreams away when her younger brother got shot and paralyzed. The medical bills buried her, so she cleaned houses to keep him alive. When Lucas's assistant offered her $15,000 a month to live in and care for his daughters, Jasmine almost said no. But she needed the money. So she came. The day she met the girls, something broke inside her chest. 3 little girls with big, empty eyes, sitting in chairs, not moving, not speaking, just existing. "Hi, sweethearts," Jasmine whispered. "My name is Jasmine." They didn't respond, but their eyes were screaming. That night, Jasmine prayed, "God, I don't know why you brought me here, but if you did, please show me how to help them." And God answered. On her 3rd day, Jasmine found something in Lucas's closet, boxes hidden in the back. Inside them, women's clothes, a journal, and an iPad. A note on the iPad said, "For Lucas, play this for our girls every day. Emily." Jasmine's hands shook as she opened it. Dozens of videos. Emily, pregnant and dying, leaving messages for her daughters. In one video, Emily was singing. In another, she was crying, begging Lucas to show their girls joy, to play music, to dance with them, to live so they could learn how to live. "Lucas, children mirror what they see," Emily said through tears. "If they see you frozen in grief, they'll freeze too. Please, baby, show them life." Jasmine understood everything in that moment. Emily had left a roadmap to save her daughters, and Lucas had locked it away because the pain was too much. But Jasmine wasn't afraid. The next morning, she broke every rule Lucas made. She took the girls outside, played Emily's music, sang Emily's songs. And slowly, so slowly, the girls started waking up. That's when Lucas came home and saw them in the garden. That's when everything changed. Before I show you what happened next, I need you to do something. Hit that subscribe button, like this video, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Because I believe God orchestrates moments. He puts people in places at the exact right time for a reason. And maybe this story found you today because you needed to remember something. It's never too late to hope again. Now let me show you the miracle that happened next. Lucas stood at the edge of the garden, hidden behind the stone archway, and he couldn't move. He'd been standing there for 5 minutes, maybe more, just watching. Jasmine was sitting cross-legged on the blanket, singing. She wasn't a good singer, her voice cracked on the high notes, and she forgot half the words, but she was smiling, laughing at herself, moving her hands like she was conducting an invisible orchestra. And his daughters, his 3 silent, frozen daughters, were watching her like she was the most fascinating thing they'd ever seen. Annabelle's eyes were tracking Jasmine's hands, following every movement. Mirabelle's mouth was open slightly, like she was trying to remember how to smile. And Isabel Lucas's heart nearly stopped. Isabel's little hand was reaching up toward Jasmine's face, slow, trembling, but reaching. Lucas felt something crack open in his chest. He hadn't seen them move like that since. He couldn't even remember. Maybe never. For 3 years, they'd been statues, beautiful, breathing statues that he fed and changed and kept alive, but never really saw. And now, watching them in the morning sunlight, surrounded by the sound of Jasmine's imperfect singing and the smell of fresh-cut grass, Lucas realized something that made his knees weak. His daughters weren't broken. They'd been waiting for someone to show them it was safe to be alive again. He stepped forward, his shoes crunching on the gravel path. Jasmine's head snapped up, her face went pale. "Mr. James," she started, scrambling to her feet. But Lucas wasn't looking at her. He was looking at his daughters. Annabelle's hand had frozen mid-reach. Mirabelle's almost smile disappeared. Isabel's eyes went blank again, that terrible emptiness sliding back over her face like a curtain. And just like that, they were statues again. Lucas felt the anger rise in his throat, not at Jasmine, at himself. They were afraid of him. His own daughters were afraid of him. "How long have you been doing this?" His voice came out rough, strangled. Jasmine's hands were shaking. "Mr. James, I can explain." "How long?" 3 days, she whispered. 3 days. In 3 days, this woman had done what 23 specialists and $1 million couldn't do. She'd made his daughters reach for something, want something, feel something. Lucas's jaw clenched so hard it hurt. "I gave you one job. Keep them fed. Keep them safe. That's it." "I know, but I didn't ask you to play therapist." His voice was rising now, sharp and cold. "I didn't ask you to go through my wife's things. I didn't ask you to—" He stopped. Because Jasmine was looking at him with something that wasn't fear. It was pity. And that was worse than anything. "Mr. James," she said quietly, "when's the last time you sat with them?" The question hit him like a punch to the stomach. "That's none of your—" "When's the last time you held them, sang to them, played with them?" Lucas felt his hands start to shake. "You don't know what you're talking about. I know they're 3 years old, and they've never heard their father laugh." The words hung in the air between them. Lucas opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Because she was right. God help him, she was right. He hadn't laughed in 3 years, hadn't sung, hadn't played, hadn't lived. He'd been so busy keeping them safe, he'd forgotten to give them a reason to want to be alive. "Get them inside," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's time for their lunch." He turned and walked back toward the house before Jasmine could see his face, before she could see that he was falling apart. Behind him, he heard her gathering the girls, her voice soft and apologetic. "Come on, sweethearts, let's go inside." And as Lucas stepped into the cold, silent house, he realized something that terrified him more than anything else. He didn't know how to fix this. He didn't know how to be what they needed. And for the first time in 3 years, Lucas James understood that keeping his daughters breathing wasn't the same as keeping his promise to Emily. He'd been keeping them alive, but he hadn't been teaching them how to live. That night, Jasmine couldn't sleep. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the silence of the house press down on her like a weight. Down the hall, the girls were sleeping. She'd checked on them twice already. They slept the way they did, everything else perfectly still, perfectly quiet. Like even in their dreams, they'd learned not to make a sound. Jasmine rolled over and picked up her phone. A text from her mum. Marcus had a good day in PT. Stood for 30 seconds. Doctor says he's getting stronger. She smiled, but it felt hollow. $15,000 a month. That's what this job was worth. With that kind of money, Marcus could get the surgery he needed, the better wheelchair, the home modifications. All she had to do was follow the rules. Feed the girls, change them, keep them clean. Don't try to fix them. But how could she not try? She'd seen Isabel reach today, seen Mirabel almost smile, seen Annabelle's eyes light up with something that looked like hope. And then Lucas had walked in, and all of it disappeared. Jasmine squeezed her eyes shut, remembering the look on his face. He wasn't angry. Not really. He was terrified. Terrified of what? That his daughters might actually heal? Her phone buzzed again. Another text from her mom. Thank you for everything you're doing, baby. We couldn't survive without you. Jasmine's chest tightened. She typed back, I love you. Tell Marcus I'm proud of him. Then she put the phone down and stared at the darkness. God, what am I supposed to do here? Downstairs, Lucas sat in his office, with the lights off. He hadn't moved in 2 hours. On his desk, his laptop was open to the security camera footage. He'd watched it 17 times now. Jasmine in the garden with the girls, singing, moving, and the girls, his girls, responding. He paused it on Isabel's face, that moment right before he walked in, her hand reaching up, her eyes wide and curious. Alive. Lucas felt tears burn behind his eyes, but he wouldn't let them fall. He'd cried enough 3 years ago. Crying didn't change anything. He closed the laptop and leaned back in his chair. The problem was, he couldn't fire Jasmine. He wanted to. He should. She'd broken his rules, gone through Emily's things, disrupted the routine he'd spent 3 years building. But she'd also done something no one else had done. She'd made his daughters want something. Lucas rubbed his face with both hands. Emily's voice was in his head now. That video Jasmine must have found, the one he'd only watched once before locking it away forever. Lucas, children, mirror what they see. If they see you frozen, they'll freeze too. He'd spent 3 years proving her right. His daughters weren't disabled. They weren't damaged. They were mirrors. And all they'd been reflecting back to him was his own grief, his own fear, his own death. Lucas stood up and walked to the window. From here, he could see the garden. Moonlight made the grass look silver. He thought about going upstairs, checking on the girls, maybe sitting with them for a few minutes. But what would he even do? He didn't know how to play, didn't know how to sing, didn't know how to be anything other than the ghost he'd become. So he stayed in his office, like he did every night, keeping his distance, keeping them safe, keeping them frozen. The next morning, Jasmine came downstairs to find Lucas waiting in the kitchen. He was dressed for work, suit, tie, briefcase by the door, but he wasn't leaving. He was just standing there, holding a cup of coffee he wasn't drinking, staring at nothing. Mr. James? Jasmine said carefully. He looked up, and for a second, she saw something raw in his eyes, something broken. The girls, he said. How? How did you know what to do with them? Jasmine wasn't expecting that question. I didn't, she admitted. I treated them like they were still in there, still listening, still hoping. Lucas's jaw worked. And you think that's enough? Hope? I think it's a start. He set his coffee down. Didn't look at her. Don't take them outside anymore, he said quietly. It's too unpredictable, too many variables. Jasmine felt her heart sink. Mr. James. But, he paused, swallowed hard, but you can play music, in the house, quietly. Jasmine stared at him. Emily's music, he continued, his voice barely above a whisper. If you still have it, you can play it. It wasn't much. It wasn't even close to what those girls needed. But it was something. It was Lucas taking one small, terrified step forward. Thank you, Jasmine said softly. Lucas nodded once, picked up his briefcase, and walked out the door. But for the first time in 3 years, he looked back before he left. Just once. At the staircase that led to his daughter's room. And Jasmine saw it the smallest crack in the wall he'd built around his heart. Jasmine waited until she heard Lucas's car pull out of the driveway. Then she went upstairs, got the girls ready, and brought them down to the living room. She set them on the soft carpet, arranged pillows around them so they wouldn't fall. They sat there, still and silent, watching her with those big grey eyes. Jasmine pulled out her phone, found Emily's playlist. Her finger hovered over the play button. This was it. Lucas had given permission, but she knew what he meant. Play it quietly. Don't push. Don't hope for too much. But Jasmine hadn't come this far to play it safe. She pressed play. A soft jazz melody filled the room, piano and saxophone, gentle and warm. The girls didn't react. Not at first. Jasmine knelt down in front of them. "Your mama loved this song," she said softly. "She wanted you to hear it every morning." Nothing. But then Annabelle blinked. Slow, deliberate. Jasmine's heart skipped. She started moving her shoulders to the rhythm, just a little, swaying side to side. "Come on, sweethearts, feel it. It's okay to feel it." Mirabelle's head tilted, just slightly, following Jasmine's movement. Jasmine smiled, fighting back tears. She picked up Isabel, held her close, and started swaying with her. Dancing, if you could call it that. Just gentle movement, just life. Isabel's body was stiff at first, resistant. But then, slowly, so slowly, Jasmine almost missed it. Isabel's head relaxed against her shoulder. "That's it, baby girl," Jasmine whispered. "I've got you." She danced with each of them, one at a time, singing along to Emily's songs even though she didn't know all the words, making up lyrics when she forgot, laughing at herself when she messed up. And the girls, they were different. Not walking, not talking, but present. Their eyes were brighter, their bodies less rigid. Annabelle's fingers curled around Jasmine's sleeve. Mirabelle made a sound, just a tiny hum, barely audible over the music. But it was there. Jasmine set them back down on the carpet and lay beside them, staring at the ceiling. "Your mama's watching," she said quietly, "and she's so proud of you." Lucas left work at noon. He told his assistant he had a headache, told his team to handle the afternoon meetings without him. He didn't know why he was going home. He just knew he needed to. When he pulled into the driveway, he could hear it before he even opened the door. Music. Emily's music. His hand froze on the door handle. Part of him wanted to turn around. Get back in the car. Go back to the office where it was safe and silent and nothing hurt. But he didn't. He opened the door as quietly as he could and stepped inside. The music was coming from the living room. He walked toward it, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might break through his chest. And then he saw them. Jasmine was on the floor with the girls, all 4 of them lying in a circle, holding hands. The music played softly from her phone. But it wasn't the music that made Lucas stop breathing. It was Mirabelle. She was moving her leg, just a little, kicking it gently in time with the rhythm, on her own. Not because someone moved it for her, not because she was being manipulated or tested or examined, because she wanted to. Lucas pressed his hand against the wall to steady himself. 3 years. 3 years of doctors and specialists and therapists and tests. 3 years of being told nothing was wrong, that it was trauma, that it was psychological, that they just needed time. And all it took was music. All it took was someone willing to try. Jasmine must have sensed him because her head turned. Their eyes met. She didn't jump up, didn't apologize, didn't stop. She just looked at him, her expression gentle but firm, and Lucas saw something in her eyes that made his throat close up. She wasn't asking for permission anymore. She was showing him what love looked like, what keeping his promise to Emily actually meant. Lucas stood there in the doorway, watching his daughter move for the first time in her life, and he felt something inside him that had been frozen for 3 years begin to crack. Not enough to break through, not yet, but enough to hurt. Enough to make him wonder if, maybe, just maybe, he'd been wrong about everything. He turned and walked back out before anyone saw his face. Before anyone saw that he was crying. But this time, he didn't go to the office. He sat in his car in the driveway, hands gripping the steering wheel, and he let himself feel it. The grief, the hope, the terror, all of it. For the first time in 3 years, Lucas James let himself feel. Lucas didn't come inside for dinner that night. Jasmine fed the girls, bathed them, put them to bed. The whole time, she kept glancing at the window, seeing his car still sitting in the driveway. Just sitting there. Mrs. Chen noticed too. "He does that sometimes," she said quietly, setting down a basket of laundry, "parks in the driveway and just sits, sometimes for hours." Jasmine looked at the clock. It had been 3 hours now. Should someone check on him? Mrs. Chen shook her head. "He doesn't like to be disturbed when he's like this. Trust me, I've tried." But after Mrs. Chen left for the night, Jasmine couldn't stop thinking about it. She made a cup of tea chamomile, the way her mother used to make it when Jasmine couldn't sleep and walked outside. The night air was cool. Jasmine could see Lucas through the windshield, his head back against the seat, eyes closed. She knocked softly on the window. Lucas's eyes opened. For a second, he looked confused. Then he saw the tea in her hand, and something shifted in his expression. He rolled down the window. "Thought you might need this," Jasmine said, holding out the cup. Lucas stared at it like he'd forgotten what tea was. Then, slowly, he took it. "Thank you." Jasmine should have walked away, gone back inside, left him alone like Mrs. Chen said. But she didn't. "Can I ask you something?" she said. Lucas didn't answer, but he didn't tell her to leave either. "Why'd you come home early today?" His jaw tightened. "I don't know." "Yes, you do." He looked at her then, really looked at her, and Jasmine saw how exhausted he was, not physically, emotionally, like he'd been holding up a mountain for 3 years and his arms were finally giving out. "I heard the music," he said quietly. "From the car. I heard it and I couldn't stay away." "You saw Mirabelle moving?" "Yes." "And?" Lucas's hands tightened around the cup, and it terrified me. Jasmine leaned against the car, looking up at the stars. "Why?" "Because what if she stops again? What if they all start to hope, start to try, and then—" His voice cracked. "What if I can't give them what they need?" There it was, the truth he'd been hiding from for 3 years. "Mr. James," Jasmine said gently, "you've been so focused on protecting them from disappointment that you forgot something important." "What?" "They need you to be disappointed with them. They need you to fail with them. That's what parents do. They try, they mess up, they try again." Lucas closed his eyes. "I don't know how to do that." "Nobody does. We're all just guessing. Emily would have known." "Maybe. But Emily's not here." Jasmine's voice was soft but firm. "You are. And those girls upstairs, they don't need a perfect father, they need their father. The one who's scared and broken and doesn't have all the answers." Lucas didn't respond, just sat there, holding the tea, staring straight ahead. Jasmine pushed off the car. "The tea's going to get cold if you don't drink it." She started walking back toward the house. "Miss Baker?" She turned. Lucas was looking at her now, and in the dim light from the porch, she could see tears on his face. "Tomorrow," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Tomorrow, I want to try. I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to try." Jasmine felt her own tears coming. "Okay. Will you help me?" "Yes. Even though I've been—" He couldn't finish the sentence. "Especially because of that," Jasmine said. Lucas nodded, wiping his face quickly. "Tomorrow then." "Tomorrow." Jasmine went back inside, her heart pounding. She walked upstairs to check on the girls one more time. They were sleeping peacefully, their little chests rising and falling. She knelt beside Isabel's bed and whispered, "Your daddy's coming back, sweetheart. He's scared, but he's coming back." Outside, Lucas finally drank the tea. It had gone lukewarm, but he didn't care. He sat in that car until midnight, gathering courage for tomorrow. For the first time in 3 years, he was going to try to be a father. And he had no idea if he'd survive it. The next morning, Lucas didn't go to work. He stood in the kitchen at 7 a.m., still in his pajamas, holding a cup of coffee he'd made but couldn't drink. Jasmine came downstairs with the girls. She dressed them in soft clothes, little cotton pants and t-shirts, nothing restrictive. Their hair was brushed, tied with their colored ribbons. pink for Annabelle, yellow for Mirabelle, blue for Isabel. When they saw Lucas standing there, they went still. Not the comfortable stillness of sleep, the frozen stillness of fear. Lucas felt it like a knife to the chest. "Good morning," he said, his voice coming out rougher than he intended. The girls didn't respond, just stared at him like he was a stranger. Because that's what he was, wasn't he? A stranger who lived in their house but never touched them, never spoke to them, never tried. Jasmine set the girls at the kitchen table in their adapted chairs. She started preparing their breakfast oatmeal with mashed bananas, the way they liked it. Lucas just stood there, useless. "Mr. James," Jasmine said gently, "would you like to help feed them?" Lucas's hands started shaking. I don't know if—" "It's okay. I'll show you." She handed him a small spoon and a bowl, guided him to sit in front of Annabelle. Lucas sat down slowly. His daughter, his firstborn, the one Emily had held first in the delivery room, looked at him with wide, unblinking eyes. "Hi, sweetheart," Lucas whispered. "Nothing." He lifted a spoonful of oatmeal to her mouth. His hand was trembling so badly the spoon rattled against the bowl. Annabelle opened her mouth mechanically, accepted the food, swallowed, but she never took her eyes off him. Lucas tried again, another spoonful, then another. On the fourth bite, his hand shook so hard that oatmeal dripped onto her shirt. "I'm sorry," Lucas said quickly, reaching for a napkin. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." And then, something happened that made time stop. Annabelle's hand moved. Slow, uncertain, but deliberate. She reached up and touched his hand. Just her fingers, light as air, resting on his wrist. Lucas couldn't breathe. He looked at Jasmine, his eyes wide with panic and wonder. Jasmine had tears running down her face, but she was smiling. "Keep going," she whispered. Lucas fed Annabelle the rest of her breakfast with her tiny hand resting on his wrist. When the bowl was empty, she pulled her hand back, but something in her eyes had changed. She'd seen him, really seen him, and she hadn't looked away. After breakfast, Jasmine took them to the living room. Lucas followed, not knowing what else to do. She put Emily's music on, that same soft jazz. Then, she did something Lucas wasn't expecting. She stood up and held out her hand to him. "Your turn." "My turn to what?" "Dance with them, like Emily asked you to." Lucas felt panic rising in his chest. I don't know how to." "Yes, you do. You danced at your wedding. I saw the photo in the hallway." "That was different. Emily was—" His voice broke. "I know." Jasmine's voice was so gentle it hurt. "But she's not here to dance with them. You are." Lucas looked at his daughters, sitting on the carpet, watching him, waiting to see if he'd try, or if he'd walk away like he'd been doing for 3 years. He thought about Emily, that last moment before surgery when she'd gripped his hand and whispered, "Show them joy." He'd failed her for 3 years. But maybe it wasn't too late. Lucas lowered himself to the floor, his expensive pajamas wrinkling, his pride completely gone. "I don't know what I'm doing," he said to no one in particular. Jasmine smiled. "None of us do." She handed Isabel to him. Lucas held his daughter. Really held her. For the first time since the hospital. She was so small, so light, so fragile, and she was looking at him like she was trying to figure out who he was. "Hi, baby girl," Lucas whispered, his voice shaking. "It's Daddy. I'm sorry it took me so long." The music played, and Lucas, billionaire CEO Lucas James, who commanded boardrooms and built empires, started swaying back and forth on his living room floor. Awkward, uncertain, terrified, but trying. Isabel's head rested against his chest, just for a second, but it was enough. It was everything. Jasmine picked up Annabelle and Mirabelle, and they danced together in that living room, 2 broken adults trying to teach 3 broken children that it was okay to hope again. And somewhere, Lucas felt it. Emily watching, smiling, finally seeing him keep his promise. For 3 days, Lucas tried. He came home early every afternoon, fed the girls their lunch, sat with them while Jasmine played Emily's music, swayed awkwardly, sang off key, felt ridiculous and terrified and alive all at once. And slowly, so slowly the girls were waking up. Mirabelle kicked her legs when the music played. Annabelle reached for his face when he held her. Isabel made sounds. Not words yet, but sounds. Little hums that made Lucas's heart want to explode. He was keeping his promise. Finally. But on the fourth night, Lucas couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Emily, about the videos Jasmine had found, about the boxes in his closet he'd locked away for 3 years. At 2 in the morning, he went to his closet and pulled them out. The first box had her clothes. He pressed one of her sweaters to his face, breathing in the faint scent that was left. Lavender and something else, something uniquely her. The second box had the journal. Lucas had never read it, not once. He'd found it after she died, seen her handwriting, and immediately put it away. He couldn't bear to read her words, knowing she'd written them while dying. But tonight, he opened it. The first entries were happy, excited. Emily documenting her pregnancy, talking about names, nursery colors, her dreams for their daughters. Then the entries changed. October 15. The swelling is getting worse. Dr. Morrison wants to monitor me more closely. Lucas is pretending everything's fine, but I see the fear in his eyes. November 3. Preeclampsia diagnosis confirmed. I'm scared. Not for me. For him. For what this will do to him if I don't make it. Lucas's hands started shaking. November 20. I'm trying to prepare everything. Videos for the girls, instructions for Lucas. I need him to know how to love them without me. But I'm terrified he'll forget how to love at all. He should stop reading. But he couldn't. December 1. I watched Lucas with the babies today during the ultrasound. He talked to them, sang to them through my belly. He's going to be such a good father. As long as he doesn't let grief turn him into stone. Lucas's vision blurred. December 8. I'm running out of time. I can feel it. My body is shutting down. I made Lucas promise today. Promise me he'd show the girls joy. But when he promised, I saw something in his eyes that scared me. He was already building walls, already preparing to shut down. God, please don't let him do that. Please don't let my death kill him too. The journal fell from Lucas's hands. She knew. Emily knew exactly what he would do. Knew he would lock himself away. Knew he would turn their home into a tomb. Knew he would fail their daughters. And she'd begged him not to. And he did it anyway. Lucas pressed his fists against his eyes, but the tears came anyway. Hard, choking sobs that he'd been holding back for 3 years. He'd spent 3 years blaming grief, blaming fear, blaming the specialists who couldn't help. But the truth was simpler and more devastating. He'd been selfish. He'd been so consumed by his own pain that he'd abandoned his daughters to theirs. 3 babies who'd never known their mother, who'd needed him to be their whole world, and he'd given them nothing but silence and distance and his own death. I'm sorry, he whispered into the empty closet. Emily, I'm so sorry. But she couldn't hear him. She was gone. And he'd wasted 3 years drowning in that loss instead of holding on to what she'd left behind. Lucas picked up the journal again, forced himself to read the last entry. December 12. Tomorrow I go into surgery. I know I won't come back. But Lucas, if you ever read this, please hear me. Our daughters will need you to be broken. They'll need you to cry, to be scared, to not have all the answers. Don't hide from them. Don't protect them from pain by refusing to feel it yourself. Children don't need perfect parents. They need present ones. Promise me you'll stay present. At the bottom of the page, in shaky handwriting, I love you. I forgive you already. Now, forgive yourself. Lucas sat on the floor of his closet, surrounded by his dead wife's things, and he understood. Emily had known he would fail, had already forgiven him for it. But he hadn't forgiven himself, and that unforgiveness had poisoned everything. He looked up at the ceiling, tears streaming down his face. I don't know how to fix this, he whispered. I don't know how to undo 3 years. But even as he said it, he knew the answer. He couldn't undo it. He could only start from here. From this moment, this breaking, this complete and total surrender of everything he'd been holding on to. Lucas stood up, wiping his face. He walked down the hall to the nursery, opened the door as quietly as he could. 3 little girls sleeping in their beds, Annabelle, Mirabelle, Isabel, his daughters, his responsibility, his second chance. He walked to Isabel's bed first, knelt beside it. "I'm here now," he whispered. "I'm not going anywhere, I promise." Then Mirabelle's bed. "You're going to walk someday, and I'm going to be there to catch you when you fall." Then Annabelle's. "You're going to talk, and I'm going to listen to every single word." He stayed there until sunrise, kneeling beside their beds, making promises he intended to keep. And when Jasmine found him there in the morning, still in yesterday's clothes, eyes red and swollen, he looked up at her and said the words he should have said 3 years ago. "Help me save them, not maintain them. Save them." Jasmine didn't ask questions. She just nodded, helped Lucas to his feet, and said, "Let's start with breakfast." They moved through the morning quietly. Lucas washed his face, changed his clothes, came downstairs looking like a man who'd been through a war, but was still standing. The girls were already awake. Jasmine had them in the kitchen, sitting at the table. "Good morning, sweethearts," Lucas said, his voice still raw from crying. This time, he didn't wait for Jasmine to tell him what to do. He pulled up a chair, sat down in front of Mirabelle, picked up a spoon. His hands weren't shaking anymore. "Let's try this again," he whispered. He fed her slowly, carefully, and between each bite, he talked to her. "You know what your mama used to say? She used to say you were going to be the brave one, the one who'd climb trees and scrape her knees and never be afraid of anything." Mirabelle chewed, her eyes fixed on his face. "I think she was right. I see it in you. You're trying so hard, baby girl, and I'm so proud of you." Something shifted in Mirabelle's expression, not a smile, but something softer, like she was listening, really listening. After breakfast, Lucas did something he hadn't done in 3 years. He got on the floor. Not reluctantly, not because Jasmine asked him to, because he wanted to. Jasmine put Emily's music on. That familiar jazz melody filled the room. Lucas lay flat on his back, looking up at the ceiling. "Okay, girls," he said, "watch Daddy make a fool of himself." He started moving his legs, bicycle kicks in the air, just like Jasmine had shown him. And for the first time since Emily died, Lucas laughed at himself. It was a small laugh, rusty, but real. Jasmine set the girls around him on the carpet. They watched their father with wide, curious eyes. "Come on," Lucas said, still kicking. "You can do it too. I know you can." He picked up Annabelle, held her little legs, and gently moved them in the same motion. "Like this, sweetheart. Just like this." At first, Annabelle's legs were limp, dead weight. But Lucas didn't stop. He kept moving them, kept talking to her, kept trying. And then, so subtle he almost missed it, Annabelle pushed back. Just the tiniest resistance, her muscle engaging, trying to help. Lucas's breath caught. "Jasmine, did you see?" "I saw." Lucas's eyes filled with tears, but he was smiling. "Again, Annabelle, do it again." He moved her legs, and this time, the push was stronger. She was trying. After 3 years of stillness, his daughter was trying. Lucas pulled Annabelle to his chest and just held her, his whole body shaking with emotion. "That's my girl," he whispered into her hair. "That's my brave, beautiful girl." They spent the entire day on the floor. Lucas didn't check his phone, didn't think about work, didn't think about anything except his daughters. He sang Emily's songs, even though he couldn't carry a tune. He made up silly games that didn't make sense. He talked to them about everything about Emily, about how much she loved them, about how sorry he was for being gone for so long. And the girls responded. Not dramatically, not like a movie miracle, but in small, sacred ways. Isabel leaned into him when he held her. Mirabelle kicked her legs when he tickled her feet. Annabelle made a sound, just a tiny vocalization, when he sang to her. They were waking up. By evening, Lucas was exhausted, emotionally drained, but lighter somehow, like he'd been carrying a boulder for 3 years and finally set it down. Jasmine brought him a glass of water. He was still on the floor, Isabel asleep in his arms. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For the water? For everything. For not giving up on them. For not giving up on me." Jasmine sat down beside him. Mr. James, can I tell you something? Lucas, please, just Lucas. She smiled. Lucas, when I found those videos, I wasn't just doing it for your daughters, I was doing it for my brother too. Lucas looked at her, confused. Marcus gave up after he got shot, stopped trying to walk, stopped going to therapy. He was so angry at God, at life, at everything, and I didn't know how to reach him. She looked at the sleeping child in Lucas's arms. But watching you today, watching you get on that floor and try even though you were terrified, I realized something. People don't need us to have all the answers. They just need us to get on the floor with them, to be broken together, to try together. Lucas felt fresh tears coming. Your brother's lucky to have you. And your daughters are lucky to have you. You just forgot for a while, but you're remembering now. Lucas looked down at Isabel, her little face peaceful in sleep, her hand curled against his chest. I wasted so much time. No, Jasmine said firmly. You survived, and now you're living. That's what matters. They sat there in the quiet, two people who'd both lost so much, trying to save the ones they loved. And for the first time in 3 years, Lucas felt something he thought he'd never feel again. Peace. Not complete peace, not the kind that meant everything was fixed, but the kind that came from finally moving in the right direction, from finally keeping his promise. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of Lucas coming home every day at noon. 2 weeks of music filling that silent house. 2 weeks of trying, failing, and trying again. And the girls were changing. Not just in small ways anymore, in visible ways. Mirabelle could sit up on her own now without the adaptive chair. Her core was getting stronger every day. Annabelle grabbed toys, actually reached for them, gripped them, explored them with her little hands. And Isabel was making sounds all the time now. Not words, but babbling. The kind of sounds 1-year-olds make, the kind she should have been making 2 years ago. Lucas documented everything, took videos on his phone, sent them to the specialists who'd given up, with messages that said, "Look what happens when you don't stop trying." But on the 15th day, something happened that changed everything. It was afternoon. Lucas was on the floor with the girls, playing with blocks. Jasmine was in the kitchen making their snack. Isabel was in Lucas's lap, and he was stacking blocks in front of her. "Can you knock them down, baby girl? Show Daddy." Isabel's hand moved toward the blocks, touched them, pushed slightly. The tower fell. "Good job," Lucas said, his voice full of genuine joy. "Let's do it again." He rebuilt the tower. Isabel knocked it down again. They did it 5 times, 6, 7. And then, on the 8th time, something incredible happened. The blocks fell, and Isabel looked up at Lucas, and she smiled. Not the small, uncertain, almost smile she'd been giving them. A real smile, wide and bright and beautiful. And then she laughed. A real laugh, clear and pure and full of joy. Lucas froze. His whole body went rigid. "Jasmine," he called out, his voice shaking. "Jasmine, come here." Jasmine rushed in from the kitchen. "What's wrong?" She laughed. Isabel just laughed. Jasmine's hand went to her mouth. Lucas rebuilt the tower with trembling hands. "Watch, watch." He let Isabel knock it down again. And she laughed. That same beautiful, pure sound. Lucas started crying right there on the floor. Big, gasping sobs. But he was smiling, laughing with her. "You laughed, baby girl. You actually laughed." He pulled Isabel close, and she didn't stiffen, didn't pull away. She melted into him, still giggling. Jasmine knelt down beside them, tears streaming down her face. "She's happy," Lucas whispered in disbelief. "She's actually happy." "She is," Jasmine said softly, "because you showed her it's okay to be happy." Lucas looked at her, his face wet with tears. 3 years. I stole 3 years of happiness from them. "No, you gave them survival. Now you're giving them life. That's enough." Lucas shook his head. "Emily asked me for one thing. Just one thing. Show them joy. And it took me 3 years to figure out what that meant. But you figured it out. That's what matters." Lucas looked at his 3 daughters. Annabelle was watching him with those big grey eyes. Mirabelle was sitting up straight, alert. And Isabel Isabel was still giggling softly in his arms. "I want to take them outside," he said suddenly. Jasmine's eyebrows raised. "Outside? To the garden, where I first saw you with them. I want to go back there, with all of us." "Are you sure?" Lucas nodded. Emily's music, the sunshine, fresh air, everything she wanted for them. I want to give them that. Today, right now. Jasmine smiled. "Then let's go." They carried the girls out to the garden, spread blankets on the grass just like Jasmine had done weeks ago. Lucas put Emily's music on, louder this time, not afraid of it anymore, not running from the memories. Embracing them. "Girls," he said, kneeling in front of them, "your mama loved this place. She used to sit right here and read books, listen to music, feel the sun on her face." He paused, his voice thick with emotion. "She wanted you to know this feeling, this peace, this joy." The afternoon sun was warm, the music was soft, the breeze carried the scent of flowers Emily had planted years ago. Lucas lay back on the grass and looked up at the sky. "Come here, sweethearts." Jasmine helped him arrange the girls around him, one on each side, one on his chest. They lay there together, a broken father and his 3 broken daughters, surrounded by the ghost of the woman who'd loved them all. "I miss your mama every day," Lucas whispered, "every single day. But you know what? I think she's still here, in moments like this, in your laughter, Isabel, in your strength, Mirabel, in your determination, Annabelle." He closed his eyes, feeling their small bodies against his. "I think she's proud of us for finally trying, finally living." Isabel made another sound, something that sounded almost like "da." Lucas's eyes snapped open. "Did you hear that?" he whispered to Jasmine. "I heard it. Say it again, baby girl. Say da-da." Isabel looked at him, her mouth working. "Da, da." Lucas sat up so fast he almost knocked her over. His hands were shaking, his heart pounding. "Jasmine, she's trying to talk. She's actually trying. She is." Lucas cupped Isabel's face in his hands. "That's right, sweetheart. Dada, I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere, ever again." And in that sun-drenched garden, surrounded by Emily's music and Emily's flowers and Emily's love, Lucas James finally understood what his wife had been trying to tell him. Joy wasn't something you protected your children from pain with. Joy was what you found together, in the middle of the pain. By choosing to keep trying, keep loving, keep living, even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. The next morning, Lucas didn't just come downstairs. He brought something with him, a large wooden box, the kind Emily used to keep her vinyl records in. Jasmine was in the living room with the girls. She looked up, curious. "What's that?" Lucas set the box down on the floor. His hands were trembling, but not from fear this time. From something else, something that looked like hope. "Emily's things, all of them. I've been hiding them for 3 years. I think it's time they came back." He opened the box. Inside were photo albums, Emily's favorite blanket, a jar of seashells from their honeymoon, her wedding ring on a chain, and dozens of framed photos Lucas had turned backward or hidden away. He picked up one photo. Their wedding day. Emily in her dress, laughing at something he'd said, Lucas looking at her like she was the only person in the world. "Your mama," he said to the girls, "was the most beautiful person I've ever known. Not just on the outside, on the inside, where it really counts." He set the photo on the mantel, right in the center where everyone could see it. Then another photo. Emily, pregnant, glowing, her hands on her belly. "And she loved you 3 more than anything in this world." Annabelle's eyes were fixed on the photo, really looking at it. Lucas kept pulling things out. Emily's favorite book, her coffee mug with the chipped handle she refused to throw away, a scarf that still smelled like her perfume. "I thought if I hid all of this it would hurt less," Lucas said quietly, "but I was wrong. It just made the hurt last longer." He looked at Jasmine. "I'm done hiding, from the pain, from the memories, from life." Jasmine's eyes filled with tears. "Emily would be so proud of you." "I hope so." Lucas's voice cracked. "God, I hope so." He turned to his daughters. "What do you say we go outside? One more time. All of us together." They went to the garden. The sun was high and warm. The flowers were in full bloom. Lucas spread Emily's favorite blanket on the grass, the one with the faded pattern she'd had since college. He put the music on. Not from a phone this time. From the old portable speaker Emily used to carry everywhere. The sound was richer, fuller, more real. Lucas sat in the middle of the blanket and held out his arms. "Come here, girls. Come to Daddy." Jasmine set them down a few feet away from him, and then she did something she'd never done before. She stepped back. This moment wasn't hers. It was theirs. "Come on, sweethearts," Lucas said, his voice gentle but clear. "I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere, I promise." For a long moment, nothing happened. The girls just sat there looking at their father. And then Mirabelle moved. Not her arms, her legs. She pushed one leg forward, then the other, crawling. Actually crawling. Lucas's breath caught in his throat. "That's it, baby girl, that's it, you can do it." Mirabelle crawled 3 feet, then 4. Her movements shaky but determined. And when she reached Lucas, he scooped her up and held her so tight. "You did it. Oh my God, you did it." He was crying, laughing, both at the same time. Then something even more miraculous happened. Annabelle, watching her sister, put her hands on the ground, and she tried too. Not as far, not as strong, but she moved. She tried. Lucas reached for her, pulled her close. "Yes, sweetheart, yes. You're so brave." And Isabel, beautiful, quiet Isabel, looked at her sisters in their father's arms. She opened her mouth, and she spoke, not da, not half a word. Dada. Clear. Perfect. Real. Lucas's whole body went still. "Say it again, baby. Please say it again." Isabel looked right at him. "Dada." Lucas fell forward, gathering all 3 girls into his arms, his whole body shaking with sobs. "I'm here. I'm here, my loves. Daddy's here." Jasmine stood at the edge of the garden, her hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. This was what Emily had asked for. This was the promise. Not perfection, not even healing really. Just presence, just trying, just love that refused to stay frozen. Lucas held his daughters in that sun-drenched garden, and he felt something he hadn't felt since the day Emily died. Complete. Not because the pain was gone, it would never be completely gone, but because he'd finally learned what Emily had been trying to teach him all along. Life isn't about protecting the people you love from every hurt, every disappointment, every fall. It's about being there when they hurt, when they're disappointed, when they fall. It's about getting on the floor with them, crying with them, trying with them. It's about showing them that hope isn't dangerous. Giving up is. Lucas looked up at the sky, tears on his face, his daughters in his arms. "Thank you," he whispered. To Emily, to God, to whatever force in the universe had brought Jasmine into their lives at exactly the right moment. "Thank you for not giving up on me." The music played on. The sun kept shining. The flowers kept blooming. And 3 little girls who'd forgotten how to live were finally waking up. Not because of medicine, not because of money, not because of specialists or therapy or perfect conditions, but because one broken father finally learned how to hope again and taught his daughters to do the same. Sometimes the miracles we pray for don't look the way we expect. Sometimes they're not about fixing what's broken. Sometimes they're about learning to live with the broken pieces and choosing joy anyway. This was that kind of miracle, the kind that changes you from the inside out, the kind that reminds you it's never too late to try, it's never too late to love, it's never too late to hope.